Hey everyone, and welcome back to That 90s Pod. For today's deep dive, we're going all the way back to 1997
Oh, yeah.
to a show that, well, I mean, it didn't just define the 90s.
You're right.
It kind of reshaped the landscape of television.
It really did. Oz, man.
Boz.
What a show.
It's hard to overstate the impact.
Yeah.
It had,
Like, you're right.
And HBO was really hungry.
They were ready.
Yeah, to make a statement.
To make a statement.
And audiences were ready for something different.
Totally. And Oz delivered.
It did.
It plunged headfirst into this world of prison life.
Yeah.
In a way that no show had done before.
Like, if you were watching TV back then, you knew Oz was different.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're just discovering it now, well, buckle up.
Get ready.
Before we get too far, though, just a quick reminder, hit that subscribe button and share the pod with your friends.
Yeah, tell everyone you know.
We love having you here for these deep dives.
Absolutely. The more, the merrier.
Okay, so to really understand Oz, we got to kind of think about HBO back then. They were a premium cable network.
Yeah.
Which meant...
No restrictions.
Yeah, they weren't beholden to the same, like, you know, broadcast standards,
Right.
so they could take risks.
Push the boundaries.
And Oz was a prime example.
Oh, for sure.
It was their first hour-long drama.
I didn't realize that.
Which was a bold move at the time.
Yeah.
But it paid off.
Big time.
And it wasn't just the format that was different.
Right.
I mean, most prison shows before Oz were either, you know, super sanitized.
I was afraid to show the real stuff.
Yeah, they didn't want to show the grit, or they were just like over-the-top dramatic.
And almost cartoonish.
Yeah, and Oz just went for straight realism.
Some unflinching realism.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just about the violence. I mean, there was a lot of that. But it was really about exploring those power dynamics, you know? Yeah. The racial tensions, the psychological toll that being incarcerated takes on a person.
Yeah, Oz held a mirror up to society.
It did.
And kind of forced viewers to confront these uncomfortable truths.
What made you think?
Yeah, and it did all of that in the context of the late 90s.
Right.
Think about it like booming economy.
Yeah.
But also, we had rising crime rates. People were anxious about all the social changes.
The tough on crime era.
Yeah, that was in full swing.
Absolutely.
And Oz tapped into that.
Right.
It reflected the zeitgeist, but it also challenged it.
It really did. And what's so fascinating is how Oz managed to be both a product of its time and way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Like, it tackled issues that nobody was talking about on TV.
Right.
Like LGBTQ representation.
Yeah, and they didn't just check a box. They featured one of the first same-sex marriages on television.
Back in 1998?
1998.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wild.
Right.
It was groundbreaking.
And the characters weren't just, you know, defined by their sexuality either.
Right.
They were fully realized individuals with, you know, motivations, relationships, complex. That kind of portrayal was so groundbreaking for that time.
It's interesting you say nuanced.
Yeah.
Because that really gets at what made Oz so compelling.
I think so.
Like you said, these weren't clear-cut heroes and villains.
Not at all.
The lines were blurred,
which
made you question your own assumptions.
Exactly.
About good and evil.
You know, are these guys bad? Are they good? You know, it's hard to say.
It is.
Take Tobias Beecher, for example.
Okay.
He starts off as this harmless lawyer, right?
Yeah.
And then his transformation in prison is both horrifying and kind of sympathetic in a twisted way.
Yeah.
Oz constantly makes you grapple with those shades of gray.
It's true. Even the most brutal characters had moments of vulnerability.
Yeah.
You know, moments that made you understand them.
Right.
Even if you didn't condone their actions.
Exactly.
That kind of moral complexity was rare on TV back then.
It really was.
It paved the way for shows like The Sopranos,
The Wire,
all these amazing shows.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine those shows existing without Oz having kind of broken the mold.
Yeah, broken the mold.
But it wasn't just the moral ambiguity.
Right.
Oz also pushed the boundaries visually.
It did.
It was gritty,
raw,
and often unflinching in its depiction of violence.
Yeah, and that rawness wasn't for shock value.
Right.
It was to immerse the audience in what it was really like.
Yeah, in that world.
Yeah, and remember Tom Fontana, the creator?
Yeah.
He actually volunteered at a prison.
Oh, wow.
So he knew what he was talking about. He brought a level of authenticity that was
unprecedented.
Yeah. And that commitment to authenticity extended to the set design and even the way that they trained the actors, like the set for Emerald City.
Yeah.
The experimental unit within Oswald State Penitentiary was designed to feel claustrophobic and oppressive, you know, to really mirror that psychological impact of being locked up.
And the actors went through this extensive sensitivity training to help them understand like the emotional and psychological complexities.
They're being incarcerated.
Yeah, they were encouraged to like interact with real inmates.
That's amazing.
To help them understand and draw on those experiences.
Right.
And I think that attention to detail, both visually and emotionally, really contributed to the show's groundbreaking realism.
It's true.
It's incredible how Oz managed to balance those really intense, often disturbing moments with these moments of genuine human connection.
It's a tough balance.
It is.
It would have been so easy to just go for, you know,
exploitation,
but it always felt very grounded in humanity, even amidst all the brutality.
That's where the show's brilliance lies.
Yeah.
I think it could depict like a horrific act of violence and then in the next scene show this moment of unexpected kindness or compassion between two inmates.
It's true.
And I think that contrast, that refusal to simplify the human experience is what made Oz so powerful and enduring.
Totally. I think you're right.
You mentioned Oz's legacy earlier.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth digging into that a bit more.
For sure.
Like, how did Oz change the landscape of television?
Yeah.
What kind of impact did it have on shows that came after it?
Well, for one, I think it ushered in this new era of television. One that was more willing to tackle more complex
themes.
Yeah. And it showed that audiences were ready for something more than just escapism. They wanted to be challenged.
They wanted to think.
They wanted to see the truth.
Yeah. And it proved that those stories could be commercially successful.
Oh, yeah.
Oz was a hit for HBO.
Huge hit.
Yeah. And its success paved the way for other risk-taking shows that pushed the boundaries.
Oz showed that audiences were willing to engage with morally ambiguous characters, you know, to grapple with difficult subject matter and to be challenged by what they were watching.
It raised the bar.
For sure.
And it created a space for shows that explored the human condition in all its messy glory.
Exactly.
It's no exaggeration to say that Oz changed the face of television.
It did.
It broke down barriers, challenged conventions, and set a new standard for what was possible.
Absolutely.
But what I find fascinating is how Oz managed to be both a product of its time, you know, reflecting those anxieties of the late 90s, and yet it continues to resonate
with audiences today.
It's
amazing.
Even decades later.
Yeah.
Like, how did they do that?
That's the mark of truly great art, isn't it?
Yeah.
It speaks to the moment, but it also transcends the moment. And it taps into universal themes that stay relevant across time and cultures.
Yeah.
Oz did that masterfully.
It did.
It captured the zeitgeist of the late 90s, but it also explored those timeless questions about power, justice, morality.
The human condition.
The human condition.
It's a show that stays with you long after you've watched it.
It makes you think differently about the world.
It does.
And the people in it.
It really does. And it continues to inspire conversation and debate even today.
That's incredible.
That's a pretty remarkable legacy for a show that aired over 25 years ago.
It is remarkable.
It is.
Oz is a testament to the power of storytelling, to the importance of challenging the status quo, and to the impact that a truly groundbreaking work of art can have on our culture and our understanding of ourselves.
Well said. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more on the groundbreaking legacy of Oz right after this.
Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to That 90s Pod, where we are deep diving into the groundbreaking HBO series, Oz.
You know, we've been talking about how Oz revolutionized television.
It really did.
But we can't overlook its impact on sparking crucial conversations about the American justice system.
I mean, it really coincided with a period of escalating discussions about mass incarceration and this whole idea of needing reform.
Yeah.
It's like the show held up this mirror to society, making us look at these realities.
Yeah, like right in our face.
That were happening inside prisons.
And it didn't shy away.
No, it didn't.
From depicting the systemic issues.
Right.
You know, the challenges of rehabilitation. Those raw human stories within those walls.
Absolutely.
And I think by humanizing the inmates,
Yeah.
Oz challenged those dehumanizing stereotypes that are often associated with prisoners.
Absolutely.
It forced viewers to acknowledge their humanity.
Right.
And to see them as individuals with stories and experiences.
Instead of just numbers.
Yeah, rather than just statistics.
Yeah.
It really made you think about, like, are these individuals just bad?
Right. Are they inherently bad?
Yeah.
Or are they products of this flawed system, this system that keeps perpetuating?
Yeah.
These cycles of violence and despair.
And I think one of the aspects that made Oz so effective in sparking these discussions was its commitment to portraying those complexities of prison life. But it didn't shy away from the brutality.
It didn't sugarcoat anything.
It didn't.
Showed it.
Yeah, it didn't offer, like, simplistic answers or easy solutions.
No. It made you wrestle with those ethical dilemmas, the moral gray areas, the injustices that are just baked into the system.
Yeah, it did so with this diverse cast of characters.
Such a great cast. Each character representing a different part of the prison experience. Like, you have the hardened criminals, first-time offenders, those seeking redemption, those consumed by the system. And that multifaceted approach really gave you this nuanced and thought-provoking look at the human condition in this crazy environment.
You mentioned the show's unflinching realism earlier.
Yeah.
And one example that always comes to mind is its depiction of prison rape. I mean, this was rarely addressed on television at the time.
Never.
And Oz did not shy away from showing the brutality and the impact.
The psychological impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of this issue.
Really heavy stuff.
And it was a bold move.
Oh, yeah.
That contributed to the show's raw and uncompromising tone.
Absolutely.
By tackling such a sensitive and often taboo subject.
Right.
Oz forced viewers to confront these harsh realities that exist within the prison system.
That most people don't want to think about, don't want to talk about.
And it really challenged those sanitized portrayals.
The ones you see in the media all the time.
Yeah. And it shed light on an issue that really needed to be addressed.
It did.
And let's not forget the show's groundbreaking portrayal of LGBTQ characters.
Way ahead of its time.
Oz was one of the first television series to feature a same-sex marriage.
Way back in 1998.
1998.
Yeah.
Think about that.
It's amazing.
It was a significant moment in television history and paved the way for more inclusive representations in the years to come.
Yeah, and they didn't just include these characters, to check a box.
Right.
They really delved into their struggles.
Yeah, their relationships, their experiences. Yeah. All within the context of prison life.
Of prison.
It humanized them.
Right.
And challenged viewers to confront their own prejudices and assumptions.
It's amazing how far ahead of its time it was. It is. In so many ways.
Yeah.
It tackled these issues that are still so relevant today.
Yeah, like mass incarceration.
LGBTQ rights.
Prison reform.
The justice system.
The complexities of it all.
Still talking about it today.
Still talking about it today.
It's a testament to how powerful the show was.
Oz wasn't just entertainment.
No.
It was a cultural touchstone.
It was
that challenged viewers to think critically.
About the world.
Yeah, about the world around them.
Yeah, it was a catalyst for change.
And its influence can still be felt.
Absolutely.
In the way we discuss these issues today.
I think so too.
And before we continue.
Yes.
Just a friendly reminder, if you're enjoying this deep dive into Oz, be sure to hit that subscribe button and tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
About that 90s pod.
Yeah.
We are passionate about exploring the cultural touchstones of the 90s.
We are.
And we appreciate you all.
We do.
Being here with us.
We love having you along for the ride.
Now back to Oz.
Back to Oz.
We talked about its realism, its impact.
Yeah.
But one thing we haven't really talked about is its influence on the stylistic narrative approaches of television.
It definitely set the stage for that golden age of TV drama.
That came after.
Yeah. Shows like The Sopranos.
Wire, Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, so good.
They all owe a debt.
They do.
To Oz.
Oz was the blueprint.
For breaking the mold.
Yeah.
and paving the way for these complex character-driven narratives that challenged audiences' expectations.
Oz showed that audiences were hungry for more than just the good guys and the bad guys.
Right.
They wanted those morally ambiguous characters, those gray areas.
To be confronted
with uncomfortable truths.
And it wasn't just the characters.
No.
Oz introduced a new level of visual sophistication.
It did.
To television drama.
It did.
I mean, the camera work was often handheld.
Yeah.
Creating this sense of immediacy.
And intimacy.
The editing was sharp and jarring.
Yeah.
Mirroring that chaotic and unpredictable nature of prison life.
Totally.
And Tom Fontana often employed these unconventional storytelling techniques.
You did.
Like breaking the fourth wall.
Having the characters talk directly to you.
Yeah.
At home.
Right to the audience.
Yeah, it was wild.
And these stylistic choices added to the show's raw and unsettling atmosphere.
For sure.
And it helped to set it apart from other dramas at the time.
Right. It was different.
Yeah.
It was like nothing else.
It's fascinating how Oz blended those stylistic innovations with its unflinching realism and its profound exploration of those social issues.
Yeah.
It was groundbreaking.
In so many ways.
In so many ways. And its influence continues to be felt today.
Absolutely. Oz raised the bar.
It did.
For what was possible in TV drama. Yeah. And it inspired so many filmmakers and storytellers to push boundaries.
To challenge conventions.
To create work.
That was both entertaining and thought-provoking.
It's a show that continues to resonate with audiences today.
It does.
Not just for its entertainment value.
Right.
But for its social relevance.
It's artistic merit.
Its artistic merit.
Its legacy.
As a cultural touchstone.
That changed how we view the world.
Exactly.
And it continues to spark conversation and debate.
It does.
You know, prompting us to question our assumptions.
Yeah.
Confront those uncomfortable truths.
Yeah.
And engage in dialogue.
About who we are as people.
About the human experience.
Human experience.
Oz was more than just a TV show.
It was a phenomenon.
It was a cultural phenomenon that challenged us, provoked us.
And changed us.
And ultimately left an indelible mark.
It did.
On the television landscape.
It's a show that needs to be remembered. Yeah. Revisited.
Celebrated.
Celebrated.
For its boldness, its brilliance, and its enduring legacy.
Oz is a testament to the power of storytelling.
Yes.
To the importance of challenging the status quo.
Yeah.
And to the impact that art can have on our culture and our understanding of ourselves.
Well said. We've really gone deep on Oz, you know.
Yeah.
From its realism.
The characters,
its impact on television. And those conversations it sparked about the justice system.
Some really important conversation.
But what about its legacy? Like, how has Oz continued to influence?
I think Oz really opened the door for a new wave of TV.
Yeah.
An era where viewers were ready for these complex stories that didn't shy away from the hard stuff.
Right, and morally ambiguous characters. Shows like The Shield, Sons of Anarchy, even Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
I mean, they all owe something to Oz.
Oz paved the way.
It's interesting you mentioned Orange is the New Black because...
totally different setting.
Yeah, it's set in a women's prison.
Right.
But it shares that same DNA.
It does.
Of exploring the lives of inmates.
Right.
With depth and humanity.
And showing how the system impacts people in different ways.
Yeah, it's like Oz created a blueprint.
The blueprint.
For how to tell those stories.
With authenticity and grit.
Yeah.
Oz proved that people wanted these kinds of stories.
It was a success.
Huge success.
For HBO.
For HBO.
And it showed that viewers were willing to engage.
Yeah, they were ready.
With these complex narratives and flawed characters.
And uncomfortable realities.
It wasn't just entertainment.
It was a phenomenon.
It was a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's play a game.
Okay.
What if...
I love this game.
What if Oz were made today?
Ooh.
In 2025? What would it look like?
What new issues would it explore?
Yeah.
Well, I think the core elements would still be there.
Right, the realism.
The characters.
The moral ambiguity.
The power dynamics, for sure.
But it would have to reflect, you know...
today's world.
Yeah.
I think it would dig deeper into mass incarceration.
Yeah.
And the racial disparities in the system.
Right, those are topics that Oz touched on.
Yeah.
But I think they'd be more central now.
Absolutely.
Given all the awareness.
And the activism.
Around those issues.
Would be a different show.
And we've seen a rise in these conversations.
Yeah.
About police brutality, and excessive force.
Especially against people of color.
Yeah. I imagine Oz would tackle those themes head on.
For sure.
Really exploring that systemic racism.
That's in the whole system.
From the streets to the prison cells.
Yeah, and I think it would explore the impact of technology.
Oh, interesting.
On prison life.
Yeah.
Which wasn't really a thing in the 90s.
Right.
Like, how has social media changed things?
Right.
How are inmates using tech to connect with the outside?
Right.
How is tech being used for surveillance and control inside?
That's fascinating.
That's a whole other world.
Yeah, and with the rise of private prisons.
Oh, yeah.
And the influence of corporations in the system.
That's a big one.
Oz could really critique those trends.
Absolutely.
Exploring, those ethical implications.
The potential for exploitation.
Yeah. And let's not forget the mental health crisis.
Right.
Oz touched on that psychological toll, but a modern Oz could go even deeper.
Into the trauma, the lack of resources.
The cycle of recidivism.
You're writing the reboot right now.
I know, right?
It's going to be amazing.
A modern Oz could be just as powerful.
Oh, yeah.
As relevant and groundbreaking.
As the original. Absolutely.
It would tap into all the anxieties and injustices.
Of our time.
Yeah.
It would spark those conversations.
And make people think.
And challenge them to see the truth.
I think we've done Oz justice today.
I think so.
Exploring its legacy, its impact.
Its potential future.
Yeah, even its potential future.
I think it covered it all.
It's a show that continues to fascinate and provoke.
It does.
Reminding us of the power of storytelling.
To challenge our world.
And it reminds us that those conversations that Oz started.
Way back when.
Are still relevant today.
Maybe even more so.
If you haven't seen Oz,
check it out.
You really should.
It's powerful.
It's powerful.
And it will stay with you.
It will.
Long after you've seen it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
As always, thanks for joining us.
On That 90s Pod.
On That 90s Pod. Don't forget to subscribe.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
We'll be back next week.
With another deep dive.
Into a 90s classic.
See you then.